Hi and welcome back to Larand Gaming, and if you are new to the channel, welcome. I am Larand, and yes, we have had an update, and in this update there was several things that has been added, but in this video I want to specifically cover the forge and basically how it works and what you need to think of if you ever decide to use it. First of all, before we get to know the forge better, we need to know of course how to get here, and to be able to reach this destination you need to get to Needhog's Reach. You can only do this when you are level 60 and above. At level 40 you will get a quest over in Port Jackson where you can talk to Popperson, the balloon guy, to get a quest. Once you have done that, you can travel over here to Smuggler's Bay. And once that is done, you need additional 20 levels and you will be able to reach Needhog's Reach. So if you aren't level 60 or above, you cannot reach this place currently. But if you are, I can tell you also that this station, the forge, is basically it makes a cosmetic update to an existing rod. So you need a rod with stats and you need a rod that has a design that you prefer to have on the rod with the stats. And once you have used them, they are consumed and they will create a new item based on what you choose. I will mention it probably more times in this video. This is just cosmetics, so it doesn't give you any benefits. It's just something that enables you to customize, and you can get a rod that is probably more suitable to your own liking. So that's very nice. As for now, we're gonna go directly to the forge and get started. So if you go talk to the ironsmith here at the forge, have a little bit of a conversation, and then you get into this interface. Basically what you do here is that you select a rod design, which is basically the physical appearance of the rod that you will have as the end result. We can choose something from here, and we're gonna go with an air pump. And from here you can see over to the right, this is the end result. You can also see the price that it adds up, and depending on the rarity of the rod, both for the rod design and the rod stats, it all adds up to the final price. And I will also show you what each rarity costs for both rod designs and rod stats, so you can see them here to both left and right on the screen. And once you have decided what you want to choose, we can basically just press forge. But once we have done that, it will consume this rod design, so you will lose this rod, and you will also lose whatever you choose here as rod stats. So we can try it out. So if I want to make, let's say we want to make, first of all we want to make an air pump, but we also want to have rod stats on it that is probably mythical, because that's most likely what you're gonna choose, because those has the best stats. And basically I can only recommend you to choose mythical stats. Otherwise I don't really think it might be worth it, because well, it does cost charge, and charge are expensive and hard and time consuming to get. But in my case, I'm gonna go with a crystal rod. I got plenty of those. I got 21 of them. We're gonna also see afterwards that this has been consumed, so it's gonna go down to 20. Worth to also mention is that this rod is locked, but still I'm able to actually select it and consume it. So this lock function isn't really 100% in this case. It overrides this lock basically. But when we have chosen this one, you can see the final price, that's gonna be 90 charge. Most likely, if you're gonna go with the rod stats that is of mythic quality, or rarity I should say, you're gonna have a price of 80 charge from the rod stats, and depending on the rarity of the rod design, it will range basically from 8 charge up to 20 charge, as you can see on my price table here to the left. So in most situations, I would guess that you have the rod stats, you have the rod designs, so you're gonna probably end up with a minimum price of 88 charge, and the maximum price is up to 100 basically. But this is the end result. You will get an air pump, you will have the stats basically from the crystal rod, and it will delete them after I have forged this item. We're gonna forge it. We're gonna get a little bit of an animation above here on the screen that you can take a look at. So we're gonna press this. A little bit of an animation. There we go. So now I should have a rod here that is an air pump. First of all, we can take a closer look at this crystal rod, as you can see. Now I only have 20, so it did consume one. The search function isn't 100%, so it says forged air pump rod here in the text. But basically when you search, if I search on forged, it won't show up. If I search on air pump, you will see only the air pump. So what you have to search on, currently at least, is that you need to search on this crystal rod. Then it will show up in the search result. If you select it, it will look like this. What it did now is that in the item description, it merged, actually, the item description from the air pump in the first sentence, high pressure air for longer casts, and then it combined it with the crystal rod, that description, the precious gems shines as bright as you. And then it also says that it was forged with crystal rod. This is a little bit sometimes misleading, because there are items that in the item description describes specific functions. So if you take a look at void core, for instance, it says allows you to fish in void ponds without any debuffs. So if you choose this as a skin, you will get this item description, but you will only get it for the skin or the visual appearance, the design basically. So this text will basically sort of fool you a little bit, because it won't allow you to fish in void ponds if you use this as a rod design. So these stats, if I would have used this one, would have been lost basically. So you only get the rod model. If you go, say for instance, this molten inferno rod, it says allows you to fish in lava. But if I used this skin, it will merge this text or combine this text, the item description, into whatever rod I used as a source for the stats, if you understand what I mean, without making it too complicated. So this is just free text. Keep that in mind if you use this as a design only. And I think, and I'm fairly sure, that there are players out there that has merged two really good rods, or at least they thought they were merging those rods, and basically they lost the stats from a really good rod because they choose a rod design that had the real good stats, and it was erased just to get the design, as it says here, and get that design applied to the rod stats. I think I just I should leave it like that, because otherwise I will just keep repeating myself and it will start to be confusing. But I see that as a little bit of a problem actually. Also something when you select rod stats, this is also a little bit tricky, because when you go in here, you're gonna choose rod stats. The problem is that you can't see rod stats in this view. You only get this hovering item description. So you need to make sure what kind of rod you want to use in advance. If I click something here, it will just add the item here. So go out, search whatever rod you're interested in, select it, check the stats over here from the backpack instead, and then you go in here and choose whatever rod you wanted to have. So I really hope that they can make some kind of adjustment here, because you're supposed to choose stats without actually seeing the stats, and that's to me it's difficult. And also another thing that will also cause a little bit of confusion, gonna take a look at let's say if we have done, let's say, more than just one air pump, same graphic. This is the main source for the air pump, and if we scroll down, I have made some test cases. We have this forged air pump. It doesn't say what it was forged from, but we keep scrolling. I got another one down here. Now it's starting to be a little bit difficult to know which one is what here actually. It doesn't tell what it was merged from in this view. So I have to go in here and see that this one was from the Ice Queen Scepter. So it has different stats compared to the second one here, which was forged from the Crystal Rod. So two different air pumps with different stats, but it doesn't really show in this view. So this can be a little bit confusing also, and trying to find the right one. Same appearance but different properties basically. And I also want to mention something, a little bit of a, well, it's dangerous basically. The lock function on the rods isn't 100% reliable, making it possible for you to accidentally sell your rod when it's not intentional. I don't trust the locks basically, because if I do something with a lock, there's a high probability that something else gets unlocked, which is quite scary actually. I can just show you an example. If I try to put a lock on this day glow edge, take a look at the other locks here in this picture. You see what happened? It removed, I think it was these 3 rods. They became unlocked when I locked this one. So if I just press this lock back and forth, do you see the locks all around the place? How they move? Sometimes they get locked, sometimes they don't. Don't trust these locks basically when it comes to the rods. I don't have any problems with the other things like the regular backpack or the pets. No problem at all, but the rod locking is very, very strange. And if you want to lock all the rods, you basically have to go through everything. I locked this one, now this one became unlocked. Now I locked that one, and this one is unlocked. So I have to go back and forth, trying to find whatever rod that gets unlocked when I lock something. Eventually, I will probably manage to get them all locked. But you have to scroll up and down all the time to make sure that nothing else has become unlocked. So I believe that if you accidentally have sold some rod here, I can't really put a blame on you, because that is something with the game, to be honest. Another thing that is also very important to know: if you forge something here, you cannot reforge the same rod again. So basically, if you have created a new item, that new item is not going to be selectable here in the forge again. So this only shows the rods that is possible to forge. And there are also some specific rods that you cannot forge, like the key to the city, because that's an index reward. I would guess that the crystal skull rod is also one of those that you can't. And I know for a fact that the crowned rod is not possible either, since it's a community limited rod. A lava rod is a good example that you also cannot forge in here. So not every rod is available here. So don't expect you, I don't expect you to find all the rods here basically, because some of them are filtered out. And also, you might have seen that in the inventory when I was playing around with the locks, you might have seen this one, Forged Phantom Rod. I did a test. Can you lose a good rod with stats from a bad one? Basically, yes, you can. So this is a mythical rod, or at least it was. It's gone now, but it's basically the graphics or the design from the Phantom rod, and I added the mast rod on top of it, so it has plus 3% strength now instead. It lost its value, so it's down to just common rarity. Get basically nothing from it, and this is what can happen if you're not careful and you basically put the wrong item in the wrong box here, and that could be, I would say, close to a fatal mistake. That mythical rod is gone, you're not gonna get it back. Just make sure that you place the items in the correct order. So you have the rod design, and then you have the rod stats. And make sure, look at the end product before you press the forge, and please don't forget, this costs shards. And if we plan to use a forged rod, let's say if we use this really bad phantom rod, if we equip it, it's gonna look like this. It's gonna look like the regular phantom rod, and everyone is gonna think, oh yeah, he has a mythical rod, that's what he's using. But really, this is just trash right now. It's a really bad rod, and you cannot tell if a rod is forged or not just by looking at the model itself like this. Nothing really changes. So yeah, that's something that you need to think of. And also, if you see someone else fishing using a rod, you can't be sure now what kind of rod they are actually using, but because it could be a forged rod and you wouldn't know about it. But overall, I think this customization option is really good. It reminds me a lot what I had when I was playing World of Warcraft and Diablo. Basically, if you had unlocked a skin, you could apply that skin to any of your items to your liking. Very good, making this customization available. And it's purely just optional. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. If you don't like the prices, you don't have to care about it. The game is just like it was 1 week ago, so just keep fishing or keep hunting, it doesn't really matter. I like it, however. I'm gonna use it. I'm not gonna use it that often though, because normally I have like 1 or 2 rods that I use more frequently, and maybe I want to customize those. So in the long run, it's not really gonna be a big expense when it comes to charge, but well, I think it's nice that we at least have it now in place. And I think the placement here also is really good. So you need to be a little bit engaged into the game as level 60, and then you might know a little bit more about the game mechanics and how to fish and where to fish, what you prefer and such. So I think this is a really good position. Well, in any case, that was all I had for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. Like this video if you would like to see more content from Fishing Simulator. Please subscribe, and yes, have a nice day. Bye everyone.